Is your music missing that groove, movement and bounce that you hear in professional tracks? I used to think the solution would be something complex, but 2 decades of releasing records and teaching thousands of producers has taught me that it's not some complex plugin chain or advanced technique. Here's the secret: volume. If you're only using it for basic leveling and fades, that's like owning a Swiss Army knife and only ever using the screwdriver. So today I'm going to show you 4 common reasons why your tracks feel flat and lack movement, and how to solve it with the power of volume. So let's start with problem 1. Synths. I bet you've added a synth to your track only to feel like it's not quite sitting right. That's because synths and pads often feel flat and static straight out of the source, especially when played over rhythmic stuff like drums and bass. Here I've got a pad and a string grouped together. They sound okay, but they just play statically over the drums. So let's get this synth grooving with plain old volume. You can use automation or whatever plugin you like, anything that turns volume up and down. I'm going to use Volume Shaper, which runs inside Shaperbox. I'm going to load Volume Shaper on this group. Let's start by loading this ramp up wave preset. And without touching anything else, this volume rise every bar feels nice. It fits the groove. Now I'll reduce mix to halfway so the swelling is more subtle. This already takes the track from flat to bouncing. Now listen to what happens when I bend this curve down. It feels lazy, more laid back. Or when I make it steeper at the start, the sound rushes in, it feels urgent. Now I'll change the rate to half notes so the volume swells up every 2 beats. And let's reduce mix even more. It's super subtle, but that tiny bit of movement changes the feel. And we're not filtering, we're not distorting. Because I'm only shaping volume, the actual tone of the sound is identical. It's the most transparent way to add groove to anything. Now, I know what you're thinking, this feels like sidechain pumping, but a bit slower. And yeah, it does a bit, but something else I do a lot is what I call anti-sidechaining. Let me show you. I'll load the ramp down preset, and then I'll bend the curve up to create this inverse sidechain curve. So if your usual pumping from low to high is like breathing in, this feels more like breathing out. With the mix subtle, you barely hear it, but you feel the movement. It stops that flat, sustained feeling that pads and synths often have. And you can combine normal ducking with an anti-sidechain shape. So here I'm using the subnote at the start of every bar to trigger the compressor. And combined with the anti-sidechain volume curve, you get this push-pull that locks everything into the groove. Okay, so we've looked at basic shapes, but here's another example. In this track, I've got a bunch of synths all grouped. And on the group, I drew this wavy volume curve. The secret is to feel the groove that the other sounds have already established, and then draw a volume curve to help your sound weave in and out and around that groove. And you probably noticed that in these examples, I've been using volume modulation on groups of synths together, which is a tip in itself. By making all of your synths ebb and flow to the same shape, it gives this feeling of unity as everything grooves together. Okay, now to problem 2. You've got your synths and your sounds moving, but what if they still feel too polite? Sometimes what's making your track feel flat isn't just a lack of movement, it's a lack of attitude, giving that straight out of the box feeling. This is where this much sharper trick comes in. I call it hole punching. Have a listen to this synth. It sounds cool, but it feels too full on. So to make it tighter and groovier, we can draw volume steps to carve out some notes in the rhythm. I like how this now sounds choppier and more syncopated. Because music production is like sculpture, you start with blocks of sound and you carve away to make everything fit. So I'll often use volume like a chisel to chip away gaps in riffs and find little pockets that add a stop-start feel. And by doing this, I use this hole punching as a sketch pad for new ideas. Now I can take what I learned from punching these holes and copy the rhythm by muting some of the MIDI notes in the clip. Although actually I prefer the hole punch version in this case because at the end of every bar it chops off the pre-volume reverb in a subtle but cool way. Now you can take this even further with advanced transgating. If you want to see how to do that, go and watch my vocal hooks video, which I'll link to below. Now there's another hole punching trick that can make synths and samples sound more pro. I grew up listening to hip hop in my teens. I've always loved that certain snap and swagger you get from old school sample chopping. You also hear this in Daft Punk's early records where the samples are cut slightly off the grid. So inspired by that, I like to use volume to punch these teeny gaps into a sound. Here's with and without. For more on this technique, I've made a short video here on our Cable Guys channel and a deep dive on my Minosaur channel. I'll link both below. Alright, now your sounds have groove and attitude, but here's problem number 3. If the same volume pattern keeps repeating over and over, your listener stops noticing it and your track starts feeling flat again for a completely different reason. So to overcome this, think of how a magician uses sleight of hand. They do one thing in front of you, but they also do something else out of sight while you're distracted. Put the two together and the audience is fooled. And you can do sleight of hand with volume to make magic rhythms. Here's an example. Here we've got a repeating volume curve like we looked at earlier. But then I'm automating the mix control to keep the movement tight at first and then blend out to something more sustained to open up. By doing this, the listener never quite hears the same thing twice. And we can go more extreme to make those head-spinning rhythms you hear on modern records. Again, I'll set up a simple repeating shape, this time a downwards ramp. I'll set the rate to unsynced, so the volume curve is free running, not synced to tempo. And by automating this from fast to slow, we get this exponential rhythm effect. A quick side note, this also works well with other effects like filters. And you can also get wavy and automate the smooth amount. Start with a straight edged wave and morph it to smooth for this bubbly sequenced feel. Many tremolo or volume plugins have some kind of smoothing control like this. Try automating it on pads and vocals. Okay, on to problem number 4. You've added groove, you've got attitude, you've automated movement. But your track still feels off, something's still not sitting right. This catches a lot of producers out. Nothing's missing creatively. It's something small jumping out and distracting the listener. This could be a hit of percussion in a loop, or a spike in an arpeggio, or a click that catches your ear. Even a casual listener who's never opened a door will feel it. So the solution is to get surgical. Most producers reach for a compressor to fix levels, but that's like using a sledgehammer to crack a walnut. I'm militant about using volume instead because it's more controllable, it's totally transparent, and it doesn't touch the rest of the loop. So if something's sticking out of my drums, I'll use volume to turn down or silence any parts that mess up the groove. and you can tweak the shape of the curve to make it fit perfectly. Then use mix to dial back the strength. And the same idea works for cleaning up samples. If you've got a click or a pop in a loop, draw the volume right down on that spot and it's gone. No need to chop the audio or load a declicker. Or if a hit is feeling a bit spiky or ticky, you can smooth its attack out just with volume. Nice and easy. So volume is the simplest tool you've got, but that is why it's the most powerful. Next time you need subtle movement, chops with attitude, magic interactions or surgical fixes, you know which effect to reach for. Because remember, volume is your most powerful chisel. Go to cableguys.com for more on Volume Shaper and our multi-award winning Shaperbox plugin, and to try the free, fully functional demo with no time limit. And using volume is one thing, but understanding advanced distortion techniques will step up your skills to the next level. So to do that, go and watch this video next.